Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. Echo's Pain. It was early morning, and Hunter had the last watch before the night was over, and he could finally get some much-needed rest. He watched as the vast and never-ending galaxy lay in front of him, wondering where they would end up next. Hunter was pulled from his thoughts when he could hear a distant mumbling coming from the back of the ship near the bunks. He walked over, making sure to be quiet as to not wake anyone. As he approached, he realized that it was Echo mumbling in his sleeps. "Fives." Hunter heard him mumble. Hunter feels like he's heard that before, but he can't put his finger on it. Hunter could see the sweat dripping down from Echo's face. Echo slightly twitches when he mentions fives. "Fives, where are you?" "Here." Echo jumps awake. He was breathing heavily and looking around wide-eyed. Hunter put a hand on his shoulder. "Echo, are you okay?" Echo looked at him and relaxed as he realized it was just Hunter. He took a deep breath. "Yeah, I'm fine," Echo says, patting his brother on the shoulder and skidding up. "Are you sure?" Hunter asked, looking back at Echo. "It was just a bad dream, that's all." Echo walked away, going to get ready for the day. Hunter knew that everything wasn't okay. He knew that what after Echo had gone through, that no one would be okay. After years of his life lost and being probed by the Techno-Union separatists, he could only imagine the horrors Echo's dreams about. And, after all, he had to leave behind. He just threw himself back into action, like nothing ever happened. But it might be finally catching up with him. Echo kept having these types of dreams for about a week. He often questioned them, trying to find some meaning behind them. After Rex had told him about fives and what happened, he only seemed to think about his friend and what pain he went through. Echo misses his best friend, and can't have imagined what it was like for fives without having him there. After losing the whole squad, being the last one is very lonely sometimes. Finding out Fives was no longer alive when he came back was the worst possible feeling that he has ever felt. Echo tries not to think about it too often, but recently he can't seem to get his mind off of it. And the dreams seem to be getting worse. as the week progressed, like they were building to something greater. The batch ended up on a new planet for their next mission. It had been a wonderful city that Omega seemed to really love. Echo watched as Omega's eyes lit up as soon as she saw the bright lights of the city. The liveliness reminded him of Coruscant and how he would go to 79s with Fives and his brothers after returning from long drawn-out battles. They were walking back to the ship, Wrecker in front. After him was Tech, then Omega, Echo, and Hunter were following behind. Hunter noticed that Echo didn't seem to be doing too well, almost like he wasn't himself. He had been acting a little strange the whole week, but he just seemed different all of a sudden. Hunter was so caught up in his thoughts, he didn't know Echo had stopped in front of him. Hunter ended up crashing into the back of Echo and stumbling back a little. "Sorry about that, Echo," Hunter apologized. But there was no response from Echo. Hunter noticed that he was stiff and staring at the ground. "Echo," Hunter said slowly, "are you okay?" The others had stopped at this point, wondering what was going on. Out of nowhere, Echo pulled out his blaster and pointed it at Omega. "Don't move," Echo said, shaking slightly. Echo didn't know where he was. He looked around and saw that Fives was standing in front of him, and behind Fives was a droid bait and cut up. He knew this had to be a trick. There was no way they could still be alive. After all the dreams he had, this one was the most real. Echo couldn't help but notice that Heavy was missing, though. He had been there in all his other dreams. Echo questioned himself. Was he even dreaming? Does he remember getting back on the ship? "Echo, what are you—" Hunter was cut off. "I said don't move." Echo was shaking even more now. Everyone was frozen. Why would Echo be pointing a gun at Omega? Hunter knew he had his inhibitor chip removed like the rest of them. He was there to witness that he couldn't put a finger on why Echo was acting like this. Hunter signaled for Tech to get Omega out of the line of fire with a head nod. Tech scooped up Omega, and at the same time Hunter tackled Echo to the ground as he fired a shot. Hunter disarmed Echo as they fell to the ground. Hunter was on top of Echo, struggling to hold him down. Hunter reached for his blaster, hoping to stun him, but Echo was too fast and grabbed it from him, knocking Hunter in the face with his scomp. Echo now had Heavy on top of him, trying to fight him. Why is he trying to fight me? Echo thought, and why were they all here? They're dead. Wrecker aimed at Echo, trying to get a clear shot to stun him, but Echo had started firing at him before Wrecker got the chance. Wrecker ran out of the way of the shots, diving to the ground. Hunter didn't anticipate that Echo would be a ruthless fighter after all, he was an ARC trooper. After some back and forth, Hunter eventually had Echo pinned down on the ground. "Tech, get the syringe," Hunter yelled as he struggled with Echo. Tech stood over Echo, and suddenly Echo had been transported back to Saluka Minor. There was one of the Techno-Union members standing over him with a syringe. Something was keeping him from moving. He shipped back and forth, trying to break free from whatever was holding him down. As they continued to get closer to him, he felt a hand turn his head to the side. He moved more frantically. Tech, hurry, Hunter said as it got harder to hold Echo down. Tech injected the syringe into his neck. That should keep him out for a couple of hours. Echo's body relaxed and Hunter stood up. We should monitor him for the time being, and I will run tests to see what I can find, Tech added. Hunter had Wrecker carry Echo back to the ship. They put Echo on his bunk and put straps across his body if he freaked out or tried to hurt someone again. After Tech scanned Echo one last time before he gave Hunter the results that he had found. And? Hunter questioned Tech. He seems to be having overactivity in his brain, mainly in the prefrontal cortex, Tech said, pushing up his glasses. What exactly happened to him? Hunter asked, looking down at Echo's sleeping body. Echo is most likely experiencing forms of PTSD from stress. Tech looked at Hunter. Hunter should have realized sooner that Echo wasn't completely okay like he said he was. The dreams should have been a sign. If he would have realized sooner, this whole ordeal could have been avoided. Thank you, Tech, Hunter said as Tech walked away, getting the ship ready for launch. Hunter saw Omega in the corner of his eye as she approached to see Echo. Is he going to be okay? Omega asked, touching Echo's cold hand. I don't know, kid, Hunter said, looking down at Omega. Hunter bent down and faced Omega towards him. He placed his hands on her shoulders. It wasn't his fault, Omega. He couldn't control what he was doing. I know, she said, looking Hunter in the eyes, seeing the guilt that rested in them. General Skywalker, the droid is manning one of those turrets. They're going to blow up the shuttle, sir, Echo said into his comm. Echo watched as General Skywalker headed towards the turret on one of the droid's steps and started shooting at the gunner. The general was shot down by the droid before he had a clear shot. Echo saw this as their only chance to get out of the Citadel. As the general fell to the ground, Echo moved into action. This is our only chance. We've got to stop him, Echo said to Fives as he ran to pick up one of the droid's shields. The droid moved the turrets so that it was now aiming for Echo. Echo, look out! Fives yelled after his friend as Echo fired his blaster at the droid. As Echo approached the shuttle, the droid didn't stop firing the turret as it followed him across the platform. The droid shut the shuttle, making it blow up. Echo wakes up, opening his eyes wide. He's strapped down to something. Fives! Echo tries to call out for Fives, but it's barely a whisper. He looks around. He didn't know where he was. He shook back and forth, trying to free himself. Fives! He tries calling again, but it was no use. Echo felt helpless. He watched as a figure approached, and he felt like he was back on Salika Minor. Echo started to move more rapidly as they were looking over him now. Hunter was sleeping in a chair next to the control panels. He had been monitoring Echo's condition. Hunter woke up hearing movement coming from the direction of where Echo was, and then he heard a faint whisper that sounded like the words Fives again. He got up from his chair and saw that Echo was moving, struggling to get out of the restraints on the bed. Hunter rushes over, but when he gets there, Echo starts to move more, almost like he's afraid of him. Hunter places a hand on his brother's chest to try and calm him. You're okay, Echo, Hunter says slowly. You're okay. He feels his breathing slow as Echo realizes it's just Hunter. Echo looks at Hunter, and Hunter can see Echo tearing up. Please take them off. Hunter hesitates for a second. Please. Hunter can practically feel the pain in Echo's voice as he takes off the restraints. He helps Echo sit up slowly. Echo puts his head in his hands as he stares down, hunched over. Hunter puts a hand on his brother's shoulder. Echo, Hunter says, trying to grab Echo's attention. Does all of this that's happening, does it have something to do about the word fives? Echo's head shot up and his eyes went wide. How do you know that name? I hear you whisper it in your sleep at night, and just now, Hunter said, searching Echo's eyes for answers. Echo's head feels so heavy he was looking at the ground now. He was my best friend. Hunter remembers why fives sounds so familiar now. He remembers Rex telling him that fives was Echo's friend, and how he died, in the end being the first clone to find out the meaning behind the chips, and how Echo is the only remaining soldier that was in his squad. Hunter saw a tear from Echo fall and hit the floor. And when I got back, he wasn't there. Echo couldn't hold back the tears that escaped his eyes now. For the past week, he's been dreaming of fives, feeling more alone than ever. All Echo wanted was for the pain to go away. But it always seemed to follow. Hunter didn't really know how to comfort Echo, so he tried his best. He leaned forward, wrapping his arms around Echo tightly in a hug. He felt as Echo did the same, taking shaky breaths, trying to calm down. I'm sorry. I can't imagine the pain.